Hi, this is Liv Morgan, and you are listening to No One Knows, a deep dive podcast into the mysterious death of Joann Matouk Romain. Welcome back, guys. We're going to be diving into more of the Matouk cases. Matouks that seem to test the limits of what justice means in a small town and who gets access to it. Because, as the saying goes, in some places, your name is worth more than the truth. This is the story of William Matouk Jr., or better known as Billy. We're starting with a plea deal. A plea deal that was a year and a half in the making. A collision involving a moving billboard truck last year, a deleted Facebook post, and a community asking, how far does influence really stretch? We're starting with the post. Almost as quickly as it appeared on Billy Jr.'s personal Facebook account, a status statement appeared on the account a little over a week ago. But this is 2025, and screenshots will be forever. He wrote, and I quote, "After more than a year of false accusations, defamation of character, and people trying to blackmail me and my family for money, I walk with zero charges. Karma will be a bitch." End quote. So, 0 charges. There's no doubt that this claim is very bold, and the question is it true or not? In the blink of an eye, the post disappeared and the question stayed. Taking a closer look, we found something extremely interesting. What the records are saying. I want to be really clear. We share everything in this episode based on the following sources: documents that have been issued by the court, publicly available testimony, accounts of eyewitnesses, my own eyewitness testimony, and me being inside of the courtroom, and all the other things that we'll disclose in regards to eyewitnesses. But rumors do not exist here. This is not the bias of our podcast. We are not a podcast based off of rumors. We base our podcast off of facts and evidence that is either further looked into or investigated or FOIA'd. And according to the record, this story is different from what was posted on Facebook. According to case number 25-2970-01FH, the people agree 1 through 4 charges dismissed upon the payment of $73,830 and compliance with all the court dates. If funds do not clear, plea to be withdrawn. End quote. In his plea agreement, Billy Jr. admitted to destroying personal property. In other words, he didn't walk without a charge. Most of them he did walk away from, but it came after writing a very large check. So, that night, what exactly happened? Let's rewind to the original incident. In front of the Matouk's family store, a moving billboard truck displays messages that some people in the city don't want to see. But they're factual statements. These are statements in regards to who hung missing poster signs, who didn't, who was willing to get up out of bed and look for their missing sister, and who didn't. These are factual statements that have been brought into a court record before and are valid through depositions. So, this moving billboard happened to drive right by the Matouk family wine store. But at the same time, we were in the area. It was right before this incident that I saw Billy Jr. with my own eyes. He was wearing a blue shirt, a hat pulled low, pacing back and forth in front of the store with a bag in hand. I hit the record button and I began documenting him pacing back and forth in front of the store. This is still a video that I have. Something about his movements told me that something was going to happen. And minutes later, it did. Right after we left, right after we headed to another area, and it just happened to be caught by another eyewitness. So, what is this eyewitness saying, and what are other eyewitnesses saying? In the moments leading up to the collision, what happened inside? Sources familiar with the situation allege that Bill Sr. turned to his son, Bill Jr., and said, "Get rid of him." A van's keys were thrown, and the decision had been made. I repeat, this is an allegation. Nevertheless, it does align with the next steps of what occurred. When officers arrived later and attempted to gather surveillance footage, The same source claim as per Bill Sr.'s instructions, they should return with a warrant. So what was the point of refusing if nothing was hidden? So, officers came back with a warrant. But the most important part for me is the witness. We weren't the only witnesses. I didn't witness exactly him hitting the van, but I witnessed him before and I witnessed him directly after when I got a call to the tip line that they had got it on camera. An eyewitness testified in court in Billy Jr.'s presence about what was seen that night. Here is the full witness report that I have yet to share, but we are sharing today to further prove that this family is not innocent and nor is Billy Jr. This statement taken June 30th, 2024 at 7:35 p.m. It says, quote, "I was driving down West Mack Avenue just before Vernier when I noticed a truck with digital print on it. I sped up to look at it. I realized it was about Joann Matouk Romain. The truck drove past Vernier, then proceeded to turn around in front of Parcels. I followed the truck, and the driver of the black truck parked in the street in front of Big Boys. I proceeded to turn around and park on Mack Avenue and Hawthorne, in and on the corner. As I sat for a few minutes, a white van pulls to the right of me and parks next to the auto shop on the corner. I proceeded to take out my phone and take a picture of a guy. I quickly realized it was Billy Matouk. Billy jumps out of the white van and approaches a black Jeep with two young people inside. He hands something to the passengers and walks back towards me. As he is walking, I see him put what looks like folded money in his pocket. Billy then jumps in the van and speeds off to the turnaround when he sees the black truck driving slowly down Mack Avenue. I then look over and see him ramming his white van into the black truck. The van starts smoking and he hits the truck again. The tire in the van caved in and he was driving on metal. He proceeds to continue driving the white van and circles back to Hawthorne Street and turns right with a collapsed tire and smoke and trying to steer. He quickly turns into the parking lot behind Telly's and parks the van next to a black truck, not the same as the one on Mack Avenue. I did not see him get out or where he went. I drove around the street and back up to Mack Avenue. Yesterday, 6:29, I listened to the podcast for the first time. So seeing the truck looking for tips was quite a coincidence. I was knowledgeable about the case and hearing about it years also stirred memories. I don't personally know the family. I was introduced to Billy Matouk last year for the first time through a friend. I never saw him since or talked with him outside of this interaction at Telly's. I believe that this was in April of 2023. End quote. The eyewitness testimony was strong enough that a judge ruled that there was evidence to move forward with a trial. This was heard in a Dearborn courtroom. Let that sink in. A trial fully justified. Yet, there never was one. Instead, $73,000 changed hands. Charges quietly were dissolved. A plea was accepted, and Billy walked away. One truck owner got compensated. One wealthy family avoided a courtroom with a jury. Was justice served? Was justice purchased? It depends on who you ask. But if you or I had used a vehicle to strike someone or something intentionally in broad daylight, we wouldn't be just paying a bill. We'd be behind bars. But this is the part of the story that money can't erase. The case didn't end on the night of that crash. And this is a case within a case. And in the days following, and months following, and almost a year and a half out, ripple effects were still felt. I personally contacted the police after this evening, after I was followed home. I reported it. I was told by multiple officers that an arrest would be made and they would try to locate Billy Jr. That never happened. Apparently, police claimed they weren't able to locate him. Rudy, the billboard driver who we spoke with on multiple occasions, received threats not only by phone, but in person. He had people driving past his house taking photos and videos, making threats over the phone, telling him not to move forward with the case. A break-in attempt was made at my home outside of the Grosse Pointe community. It's unclear if all of these are related, but the timing is hard to ignore. Patterns speak volumes. And all the people who continually talk about the Matouks, or this case, somehow fall at the hands of foul play. And why is that? The pending truth. I have a FOIA request filed with Macomb County because what I want and what everyone listening deserves is a full picture. What's on that surveillance footage? What's in the documentation of the investigators' reports? Who decided that this no longer was going to go to trial? How did $73,000, a fraction of what the money lost for this billboard, ended this case? These are the core questions that I continually ask. But in towns like ours, there are families whose shadows stretch farther than justice itself. And the Matouk name comes with a sense of power, similar to other names you'll hear nationally. Just as the Murdaughs did. They used to rule the South until they didn't. But if you know anything about small towns, about the connections and protection, there are quiet corners of these communities. The parking lots, bar stools, church pews. People whisper and people talk. People remember. Because the best part about small towns is that they love to gossip. And gossip, sometimes, is just truth without paperwork. This case may look over on paper, but paper burns, memories do not, and the truth does not. I'm going to leave you with something. The breakthrough didn't come from a confession. It came from a code no one can outrun. We will be watching what comes next, and so will all of you. Season 2 of No One Knows podcast, the deep dive into the Joann Matouk Romain case, begins January 12th, 2026. We'll see you then. In honor of Joann and her love for her family, we'd like to take this moment to honor all of those that have pushed this podcast to the place that it's at today. Because without all of you, this podcast would not be what it is. So with that being said, we'd like to offer our lending hand and our love for our community with donations made to families and those in need, with food during this holiday season and gifts to put under trees. If you know a family that is in need, please email us at nooneknowspodcast2024@gmail.com. We will also have a link in the show notes to make donations if you'd like to provide financial stability for those in need. Thank you so much and happy holidays.